Hey, I'm Andrew Lloyd, and today I'm talking about Reckoner by Radiohead. The first thing I want to go over with this piece is the chords. So we're starting on a C major, to E minor, D major, and then C major, and E minor. So first thing, what is most typical is our harmonic cycles to be in groups of 4. So it's like a 4 measure cycle is the most typical. And this is 5. So we have C, E, D, C, E. Now you probably noticed it's C, E, and C, E. And that is really important in the feel of what's going on here. And what it does is it makes the harmonies feel like this circle that's happening. And actually, when you get back to the top, or you can feel like, maybe it's better to say, you can feel like you're getting back to the top of the cycle, but you're not. So it's like you've got the C, and then the E, and then you go to the D. Now after this is the C and the E, so it feels like you're on a cycle of 3. So you already feel like you've gone back to the beginning here, and then the cycle resets. So it has this really pleasant way of throwing off your expectations, where it's like you subconsciously, you don't even have to be conscious of it, you feel like you've already returned to the top, and then you get to the top. So you thought you were there, and then you realize you weren't. So the fact that just doing 5 measure cycle, just that alone is going to throw off some level of expectation. But then the fact that the end and the beginning are identical adds to that. Now, if we just look at it, kind of ignore the cycleness of those chords and just look where those chords are coming from. So we're starting with the C. We would expect to be in the key of C. So no sharps, no flats. So we have C major, E minor. That's still in the key. But then we have this D major chord with the F sharp. So that is obviously not in the key of C. So Radiohead does this all the time. I've talked about this in some other videos I've done talking about their pieces. So we're again in modal harmony. And this these set of chords, we're in C Lydian. So what that means is we are using the notes, or you could say the chords from the G scale, but C is our home base. So and it's like the 4th of the scale. So anytime you're using the 4th note of the scale as your home base, and you're using the notes, 4 down, then you're in Lydian. So that they do that all the time. That's a way to make, I think, a great way to make pretty simple harmonies sound fresh again. Just because the harmonic material we use is fairly limited, and it's a lot of rearranging the same blocks over and over, and all of those harmonies have been used a billion times. And if it hasn't been used a billion times, it's probably kind of like out there and weird, and most of the time we don't want it to sound out there and weird. So using modal harmony is a great way to freshen things up without just feeling like, okay, I've heard that a million times. So the other thing I wanted to go over harmonically is in the bridge, we have a little change of pace, and we're on A minor to C, and then this is the more surprising chord, B dominant. So what we're doing here is we're in C Lydian, which is it's kind of like in the key of G, but we're now switching to E minor, which is also in the key of G. So another way of saying this is we went to E Aeolian, but for minor we normally just call it minor. And that's where the B dominant 7 is coming from. So we have A to C to B dominant 7. So it's common in minor that the 5 is still a dominant chord. So in this case we have the D sharp, but that's coming from the E minor scale. Now what I like about this is what you would expect. Here's the C, here's the B, and this chord normally goes to here, to E minor. But instead of doing that, here's the B chord, and then just goes back to the A. And then later the E comes in. So it's in E minor you would expect that B chord, but you would expect it to go to the E, and in this case it doesn't. And it goes through a little journey, it goes somewhere else, and then eventually the E comes in. So it's a little bit delayed. All right, that's it for today. Thanks.